a series of messages that I am doing on relationships called Lies Hollywood Tells Us About Love and Romance, because I'm convinced of several things. One, I'm convinced that marriages, by and large, are really struggling today, and also that we tend to get most of our information from Hollywood, from the movies that we see when it comes to what love and romance really is. And the truth about Hollywood, though, is that Hollywood only cares about making money. They don't care about teaching you the truth. And Hollywood actually just flat out lies to us. Here's a lie that I want to talk to you today about, that Hollywood seems to make it seem that being in love makes communication easy. Just because we're in love with each other. And so oftentimes you see relationships talked about in the movies that it's sort of at the very, very beginning of their relationship, which oftentimes that's when communication seems to be the easiest, because both people are fully engaged. This is new. This is just a wonderful thing, and a lot of times Hollywood just makes it seem like it just is so natural because we both really, really fully, we're in love. Have you ever wondered why the fiance never really gets it wrong on the size of the ring? Like he always just seems to know. Well, I promise you, that is not the case, because men typically are not near that intuitive. We do not understand that thing. We're still working on the size of our own ring. But in Hollywood, it just makes it look like the spouse always seems to know what the mate needs to hear just at the right time, and that's because they're reading a script. But none of us have scripts, right, Denny? None of us have scripts that we read from, and this kind of goes along with that the spouse automatically knows what the mate is thinking and feeling. And again, I speak for the men. So oftentimes we just have no clue what our mate is thinking, and so often a lady, as intuitive as women are, and women are very intuitive, but you really don't know, you really don't understand what it's like. As amazing as you are, you don't understand what it's like to be a man, and you don't know really what we're thinking and feeling. And I want to encourage you not to make each other guess, not to assume like they're going to just figure it out, or they should automatically figure it out because they really seem to on the movies. They seem to get it, but in reality, being in love does not make communication easier. In fact, communication is a daily challenge. Okay, I'm going to show you a video. I kind of debated on whether to show you or not, because it's just a total nonsense video, and it doesn't quite exactly fit with my message, but I thought it was funny, so I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Okay?
It's just there's all this pressure, and sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. All of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't.
Okay. All right. Well, the thing is, unlike that particular one, Hollywood really does tend to make communication seem so easy, and it honestly doesn't seem to occur to us that communication takes work because we're in love. We're in love. We love each other so much, and so we finally found the one that is our soulmate, and so therefore, naturally, we'll just get each other. Truth is about marriage is though that it offers endless opportunities for what I'm today going to call small conflicts. What I've begun to realize is that marriages suffer mostly a death of 1,000 paper cuts. There, of course, are obvious reasons that some marriages struggle. I mean, the obvious things like infidelity, issues about money, issues about trust, and there's one certain event that really has led to that. And so a lot of times we say, well, most marriages end because of infidelity or money issues or trust. But in reality, here's the truth that I find is that most marriages struggle, and those that eventually end because there's 1,000 little paper cuts all along the way that they never paid attention to. And it's sort of like if you get a cut on your finger or somewhere else on your body and you just ignore that. You wouldn't do that, but we tend to do that because small conflicts in our mind are small conflicts. And so therefore it doesn't, we can just sort of push it under the rug and kind of shove our feelings down, and men are good at this, shove our feelings down and not really think about it, and somehow it'll magically go away. But here's what I want to talk about today, okay? Now, I promise you this is going to be a big help to you in your small conflict area. And why do we need this help? Again, it's because most of our marriages are not struggling because of the big issue that we tend to blame it on, like the infidelity or trust or whatever. Most of our relationships are struggling because of the paper cuts that we don't deal with. Now, let's go through it here. Paper cut, whenever there's something that our spouse says that kind of stings, we don't agree with, or it bothers us. What happens in us is kind of like what happens with a cat. Our claws come out, and I'm not sure if that's the exact right way to say this. Those that know more about cats know the better way to say it. I don't know, the tendon is released or something, how that works, but in our eyes, it looks like the claws are coming out, and you can see the claws that really you couldn't see before, and this is what happens, and this is surprisingly what could happen to you this very day. It happens unknowingly. It happens just like boom, and it's there, where our spouse says something that we don't like, and all of a sudden, the claws come out, and we are in attack mode, and of course, psychologists say, or even science shows this, that there is within us all a fight or flight mode that happens whenever we're upset. Even in the small conflicts, what happens is that the claws come out and we are either ready to fight or to run. And a lot of times, we depending on your personality, you do either one of these, but I want to talk to you today especially about those of you who have the tendency to stay and fight on the small conflict because your claws are out. Now, at this moment, there is a huge decision that you have to make. And the older I get, the more mature I get in my relationship, the more that I realize this, that I can just see it happen whenever I get upset at something that Denise might say. I can just feel it happening, and my claws come out, and then there's this I need to get my way, I need to stay and fight. But right then I've learned like claws out and everything, there's a decision that I make. And this is where it all either goes downhill or it all can stop right here. Okay, you're upset, claws are out, you're ready to attack, it's fight or flight, and then right now is the decision, and the decision goes like this. Am I going to win or am I going to try to heal? Because, again, as soon as the claws come out and there's the fight or flight, it is the outcome that you already need to be thinking of. And the outcome typically for us who want to stay and fight is I've got to win. I've got to prove my point. I've got to make them know that I have the right thing to say, that I'm thinking about this right, and they are totally wrong on this issue. I've got to win this fight. And the truth is that many times we can win, and it doesn't mean anything. It just cuts the other person, and we leave them bleeding, or we just win for the sake of winning. I learned this in my relationship at some point, that sometimes, and this was years ago, I came to this, I just want to win for the sake of winning. I just want to win for the sake of winning this fight because I don't like to lose. You know, the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, I think it's around 5, verse 5, that it says, love does not keep score, or love does not keep records. And you know what that has to do with? It has to do with love does not say, I want to always win. I'm keeping this score in my head of who wins the most and how many I lose. Love is not interested in that. You know what love is interested in? Love is interested in the relationship, and love wants to heal. It doesn't matter. There shouldn't be a scoreboard. There shouldn't be this ongoing who wins the most and who loses the most. There should be one scoreboard that matters, and that is, do we have a good relationship or not? Because at the end, it doesn't matter. There's not going to be like this scoreboard that finally that says, like, man, has 150, and she has like 132 or something. And yeah, I won. So what? You've got a really bad marriage. Okay, so the conflict happens. You get upset. The claws come out. There's this fight or flight that happens, and then you have a decision to make. Am I going to try to win for the sake of winning, or am I going to try to heal this thing for the sake of this relationship? All right, let's go to what doesn't work now. This is what doesn't work in small conflicts: raising your volume. The Bible also talks about this, about not raising the volume and lowering your volume in the sake of trying to help conflict be worked out. It is not going to help for you to raise your volume in this argument or to try to get your way. Because what are they going to do? They're either going to raise their volume or they're going to kind of shut you out because they didn't like your volume to begin with, and now it's even louder. Here's what doesn't work: following room to room. There might be different reasons for this. A lot of times that person who's trying to get away needs a break, and they need to have space. Actually might be their way, at least temporarily, of working things out in their personality. They need to not just stay in there and go toe-to-toe and say something they don't want to say. But you may not be that way, and so you want to follow them room to room, and that's not going to get you anywhere. Trying to prove your point in these small conflicts, typically this is not the time to prove your point, because generally, now remember, your claws are already out. You're not in, I really want to hear what you have to say mode. You're in, you get close to me, I'm going to claw you. Urgent tone doesn't usually help. Urgent, we have an urgency. I want you to get my point. I want you to understand my point. And so we keep raising our voice and we get more urgent. That just kind of raises the heartbeat. It doesn't help. We won't drop the topic. A a lot of times there's a point where the conflict could stop, at least for a moment, to where we can think about it and kind of work things out. But then sometimes there's the person who won't drop it, and so 15 minutes later, things have kind of like at least gotten to your heart beats down and you're okay. And then, but if you would just and then boom, it's right back there again, and it sometimes is even worse because you just won't let it go. Here's a statement that, man, I don't know. It just whenever this statement became popular years ago, somehow it just got popular in me whenever we would have conflicts. It's like, whatever. Oh, that's not a good statement. Whenever there's small conflicts, because that can be interpreted in so many ways, but basically it's a statement that says, you really don't understand what you're doing, and there's nothing else I can do because I'm pretty superior in this, so whatever happens, happens, or whatever you're going to do, you do. And so whatever, you're never going to get it, you're never going to understand, whatever. Okay, I want to tell you some things that do work, and I'll just give you a quick example of how small conflicts can happen so quickly. So Saturday before yesterday, Denise is in the living room, and I'm walking out to the kitchen, and I have an empty bottle of, it's called sparkling ice. It's like flavored water. And what we do with these empty bottles is we put them in a garbage bag, because apparently you get money back or something. I don't go to stores very often, but what is it? Yes, thank you. This whole time you've been losing money on this? I'm so sorry. Anyway, so they are returnable. So what Denise does is we put them in a plastic bag on a banister that goes down to the basement. So she ties up the bag, and that's where we put the bottles, the empty bottles of sparkling ice. So I'm going to the kitchen with this bottle of sparkling ice, fully intending it to go to the banister. She says, by the way, there's some others in there that you can grab as well, and just take them to the basement. Well, in my mind, I'm thinking, why would I take them to the basement? Because we always put them in this bag in the stairwell. And I said, why would I take them to the basement? And she says, you know where to take these, just take them to the basement. And again, I'm thinking, why would I take them to the basement? But in her mind, she's thinking that the stairwell that goes down to the basement is the basement. And technically, that's right, as I thought about it later. Technically, it's below the main floor, so it's the basement. But in my mind, it's the stairwell that goes down to the basement, and it's not the basement. And so I'm wondering, why? Is there a new box? Is there a new container in the basement now that I've got to find? And so I'm just saying, why would I take him to the basement? And then she said, don't you know where the basement is? Claws, fight, or flight. Because in my mind, I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but on my least sharp days, I promise you I know where the basement is. And there's a decision that I had to make standing in the kitchen. Later, I made the right decision, by the way, but later, as I thought it through, not only did I realize that technically is the basement, but that she was kind of kidding. She was just poking fun. Like, my wife knows that I know where the basement is. But it's at that moment when the claws are out, I have a decision to make. Am I going to win this fight? And then again, for what reason? So at the end of my life, I can have one more point than she does? And a marriage full of conflict? Am I going to win this fight, or am I going to try to heal this situation? And only because I've matured in my relationship did I decide I'm going to heal. I'm not happy, because I guarantee you I know where the basement is, and I hadn't figured it out yet, the difference between the basement and the stairwell, but I'm not happy. This doesn't seem to be fair. But for the sake of the relationship, which is so much more important, I decided to just do some of these things. All right, I'm going to give you just quickly. These, I promise you, these are going to help you with small conflicts and large conflicts too. But if you can find a way quickly to say the magic word, the healing word, sorry. Now, this is not saying, sorry, I know where the basement is. Sorry, how could you think I don't know where the basement is? Sorry, we've always put it in a bag on the banister. What it does, it says, instead of putting it on her, it says, sorry, I. And it begins to diffuse the situation. Sorry, I. Because I decided now that the outcome was going to be heal, not win. I honestly was sorry that I got upset. I didn't know exactly where I'm to put them yet. Is there a new place in the basement? I didn't know, but I am sorry that I got upset about something that ultimately is a plastic bottle and where to put it. I'm sorry. You can do this. Promise you. Here's another one. Just let me think about that. Which is what I did, but I didn't say it. But it's like, I'm going to think about this. Oh, that's great. I love little pitter-patters. That's wonderful. So let me think about this, all right? Here's another one. Oh, my goodness. You might be right. Ooh, like the Fonz here. Remember the Fonz couldn't say I'm sorry? You might be right. Doesn't say you are right. Doesn't say, okay, there's obviously a difference between the basement and the banister, but possibly you are right in the way that you're looking at it, as crazy as it is. You might be right. I promise you, though, these are helpful ways to diffuse these small conflicts. Another one is I understand. I may not understand yet where to put these bottles, but I understand that I shouldn't have got upset. I understand that there's something I don't understand. Or, I'm sorry, you're right, could actually be the thing that you need to say. And again, I got to say that over the years, I am surprised at how many times I'm wrong, and that I just don't. That when I know I'm right, I know where the basement is. But how many times, honestly, like I just absolutely am thinking about wrong. And so kind of my default is a lot of times now is just like there very well may be a good chance that I'm wrong on this. And so immediately now you see all these are like not you, but instead it's I. And even though you don't have it figured out yet, it will help so much in the small conflicts, because the goal is not I must win, but the goal should be the relationship must win. I'm going to give you just the absolute best one of all. See, this guy's all of a sudden like a teddy bear, and he was like killer earlier when his claws were out. But All right, this is a surefire winner, and you may, boy, it's really maybe hard to do. But if both of you believe in God and you believe in prayer, if you'd actually say, let's just ask God to help with this. Let's ask God to help us just calm down and help us to figure this out. Oh my goodness. I promise you that will diffuse things so quick. It will. It lets you know that there's a God who's watching. It lets you know that it's not about you. It's about God. It's about this relationship. I promise you. Don't get the wrong idea from this verse. It says, I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Jesus is saying this. Okay, you got enemies. This is how you diffuse it. Pray for them. But sometimes in the small conflict, your mate kind of will come off like an enemy or someone who's attacking you or persecuting you. And if it helps with an enemy, I promise you, it'll help with your mate. If you would actually just say, could we just pray? And if they're not a believer, they're not into that, you can pray. You can do the 3-second prayer. I mentioned this in one of my videos I'm going to release of just like, God help me, God help me, God help me. You can do that in 3 seconds and just say, God help me, God help me, God help me. All right. So that is a lie, that communication should be easy for you because you're in love. In actuality, it takes a lot of daily work. And healing the small conflicts is where we begin. This is why I want to encourage you to be working on this week, is these small little paper cuts. And I've just given you some really good ways. I'm going to put this out on YouTube. It'll be out on our church app. You can watch it again to get these ideas. But, wow, if you can get the small cuts healed, it's going to do wonders for your marriage.